Hello, I'm coming to you with a quick video from a hotel room. I'm traveling for work, and it was kind of a last minute thing, so I'm traveling pretty light. I decided to, as I was going out the door, to pack up my small little HD camera. One, so I could do this video, but also because I like to visit museums. And I'm actually in Charleston, South Carolina right now, so there are some good museums to go check out. And I went to the Charleston Museum. It's actually the name of the museum. It's probably pretty much the first museum in Charleston. They had a very nice exhibit, a lot of variety. But during traveling, I try to pack real light if possible, and so just this little tiny camera. But the reason I'm actually making this video has to do with the idea of practice for HEMA when you're on the go. And this is going to be a little bit of self-promotion in some extent, but it's also to kind of highlight a tool that I think most people are actually pretty unaware of. And that tool is actually what's called the MBlade. This is a design that has been put out there. It's a very, very specific use case. I'll link to the website in the description. But the use case is essentially you're needing to have a more portable sword, or you're in an enclosed space and you want to be able to do some sort of solo drills, real basic things for HEMA. And the focus, of course, is longsword. And the MBlade is actually it's a really neat idea, but it's rather expensive, and especially when you're considering trying to ship it from Europe, it's more than I want to pay for that kind of edge case. And I'm traveling over the day that I would normally be practicing with my HEMA group. And because of that, I wanted to kind of see if I could real quick kind of make something that would be similar. And I've seen this in other places where someone might have an old wooden waster and it's broken, or they feel like it's not going to really hold up anymore, so they cut it off at the kind of the halfway point of the blade, and they add some weights to the end to kind of give it the counterbalance that they would expect it to have, and then it's shortened and they can do the drills. But I didn't have a waster that I could waste to do that, so I actually took a different approach, and that is I have a Rawlings Synthetic sword. And for those who know what a Rawlings Synthetic is, you have basically component pieces that can be swapped out. You have the basic blade, you have the hilt components, with the pommel, specifically in the crossguard, being metal if you get the good ones. And so it has some weight to it. And so what I did was I made a 3D printed kind of short replacement blade that is swappable on the Rawlings Synthetic, and you can add weights to it, and it looks a little bit like a monstrosity. This is actually it. So Rawlings Synthetic, the pommel does unscrew, and it'll take a moment because it's a long screw, and you have a rubber grip handle that once you get off, you have a basic plastic tang, and you have a metal crossguard. And so with the crossguard and with the pommel, you've got actually fairly decent weight, and the grip is decent enough on these things. The Rawlings Synthetic, I don't think, are really the best. In my opinion, they're not really the best synthetic waster out there. There's much better ones. But the modular design allows for some interesting things, specifically this. So I made this 3D printed blade, and it really is just made to kind of extend and house counterweights on the end. So the idea is that I have what's essentially what feels like a real sword in my hand, but I'm in a much more tight environment. This can fit as is right into my very, very small luggage case. I just throw it right on top and it's in there. And that means that if I want to practice on the day I would normally practice, but now I'm traveling, I'm in a hotel room, I can still do so, because I'm not going to be knocking lamps and TVs and all sorts of the furnishings off their tables. I'm not going to be destroying anything because I've got a nice little sturdy thing, but I can work in a very enclosed space and it feels proper. The weight feels proper. I will say that because of the weight of the crossguard and the pommel, the overall weight of this practice sword is probably a little bit higher than I would normally expect, but it's still well within the guidelines for how heavy a longsword should be, and it does feel right in the hand. So I can do some real basic drills in an enclosed space. So it's a great little kind of travel piece. And the reason I said it's a little bit of self-promotion is I'm going to also in the description below link to the Thingverse for this. And if you don't know what Thingverse is, it's basically a community for sharing 3D printable items. And these are things that people have designed or come up with or scanned, and it's so many different things. But if you're in the 3D printing realm, or if you have a 3D printer, you can just go download for free the things that people put on there, and you can go make it yourself. And so I've actually I designed every piece of this. It's 4 pieces. There is the handle piece. There is a kind of small tang piece. I'm actually calling the plug because I don't really have a good name for it. And that kind of goes into this basic ricasso to taper. So ricasso kind of. You have a taper piece that is really meant to just kind of signify where a balance point should really begin. This one balances a little bit closer to the cross guard. And then you have the weight piece, which is just kind of flat and allows you to bolt on some plates. And specifically, I went out to my workshop and I bought a steel bar and I cut it into the right shapes and drilled the holes so I could fit it on here. So there's parts of it you can't really 3D print, but there's parts of it that you can. And so you could really make one of these with pretty much anything. Again, an old waster that's broken, but I really wanted to kind of go with the modular concept. I wanted to make something that was actually useful potentially to a large group of or a large portion of the community that might own a Rawlings Synthetic and that may not actually use it all that much anymore, and so now they have something to use it for. So that's really it. I just kind of wanted to throw that out there, make sure that people were aware that this is actually an option for training. This is something that you can do. I think it's a valuable tool for people who travel a lot, or for people who don't necessarily have a lot of space, who may be stuck at home. And actually what made me think about making this was having multiple days in a row of nothing but rain where I live. And so I was basically stuck inside. And my HEMA group practices at a gym, like a large open gymnasium. So the actual practice wasn't concerned, but practicing on the off days when it's raining and I'm at home, really I don't have many options. But this gives me an option. Again, it's basically you're only going to be able to really do solo drills, and it's going to only be at best an approximation. You really can't do everything with this, but you can do a lot. So I hope that's valuable to some people out there, and if you have the money and you have the desire, I would definitely suggest that MBlades might be for you. You know, it's a small kind of startup at this point, but the product does look pretty decent. So either way, hopefully this gives you an idea of something that you can use. Obviously this is off of my normal types of videos because it's not really a review. But I figured it was something of value. So anyway, thanks for watching, and until next time, have fun practicing.